Hi, my name's Emma, and I'm a huge book nerd.
You're my library, always open for business.
Today's a very exciting day because it is time for the top 10 books of 2020. Now, it's been a rough year. We all know this. I don't need to explain why. But on the bright side, there's been a lot of time for reading. And because there's been a lot of time for reading, I've read a lot of pretty great books, which I'm really excited to tell you about. So I tried to put these into some semblance of an order. The order's not really important, but I tried. So in 10th place for 2020, I have Franny and Zoe by J.D. Salinger. A friend of mine sent me this book to read, and I'm so glad she did because I don't know if I ever would have read it otherwise, because my only other experience with J.D. Salinger is Catcher in the Rye, which was it's just such a teenage white boy book. Like, it's fine, but it just was not for me. But reading this one, gosh, I just felt like such a poetic, dark academia person when I was reading this book, and I loved it. Basically about two siblings, Franny and Zoe, living their lives, and it's just short and sweet and poetic and kind of philosophical, and I loved it. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I think if you want to give J.D. Salinger a chance, ladies, check this out. Next on my list, I have, in 9th place on my list, I have Writers and Lovers by Lily King. This book hit me in such a wonderful, personal, upsetting way. It's about this writer, Casey, who is trying to deal with pulling her life back together after her mother's death, and she's barely surviving with her day job. She's trying to finish this book that she's been writing for forever, and she just feels so lost, and she's hurting over past relationships, and she doesn't know if she's ever going to fall in love again. It's just one of those books that has something really special. I don't know how to describe it. The vibe in some ways reminds me just a tiny bit of Sweet Bitter, if anyone remembers that book. It has that kind of like woman surviving, trying to find her way in life vibe. And it's just beautifully written. I am officially a Lily King stan. Yeah, so if you have heard me rave about Euphoria by Lily King, or if you've read Euphoria by Lily King, the writing continues to be phenomenal in this, and I will love her forever now. So yeah, obviously, all of these I gave 5 stars. Read it. Next on my list, I actually have a play. It's called In His Hands, or The Gay Christian Play by Benjamin Ben. And this play blew my mind. I found it on New Play Exchange. So if you have a New Play Exchange account and you're interested in reading this, you can find it there. It's not a published play. It's a new work. It's about these 2 gay men with very different views on religion. One of them was raised super religious and was not accepted by his family and by the church. The other one is actually becoming a Lutheran pastor. I believe it's Lutheran, and is an openly gay man. It was just the most beautiful poetic play. I described it in my little review as a poem of the mundane turned miraculous. In His Hands is breathtaking from start to finish. Ben deals with the very sensitive topic of religion and sexuality in a way that left me with an overwhelming sense of hope. I just loved it, and I think it deserves a place on the top 10 list. So next, I think we're on 7th place. I have Autumn by Ali Smith. You may have heard me recently rave about this book. I love it so much. It's kind of difficult to tell you about the plot because it has a very meandering plot, but it's basically about this young woman who is visiting this man who she grew up next door to, and now he's in the nursing home. And he taught her all this stuff about art and life, and they just have such a special relationship, but he's asleep for most of the book, and she's just visiting him and reminiscing, and it's beautiful. It's just, the whole book is poetry. I'm obsessed with it. You must read it. You must. 6th place is The Invention of Nature, Alexander von Humboldt's New World by Andrea Wolf. I don't have my copy of this right now because I've lent it to my family, but this is a nonfiction nonfiction has made my top 10. Mind-blowing. It's about Alexander von Humboldt, who was a botanist and just nature scientist and fanatic in the 1800s, and he changed the world. He literally influenced so many people, like Darwin, Thomas Jefferson, like people that it blows my mind. This book completely blew my mind because I didn't even know this man existed before I read this book. And I now he's like forever on my list of like famous people, dead or alive. If you could like have a dinner party, who would you invite? Alexander von Humboldt, hands down, would be at my dinner party. So I highly recommend that anyone and everyone read this book. Just obsessed. Number 5 this year is Emma by Jane Austen. I don't know if I really need to explain what this is about. Basically, it's this young woman who fancies herself a matchmaker, and she wants everyone to find love, but doesn't care about finding love for herself. She just wants to live with her father and take care of her father and just make everyone else pair up and fall in love. I felt attacked by parts of this book, especially because it has my name as the title. The main character's name is Emma, and she's not always the best. She's very flawed, and I felt attacked by some of it, but I loved this. I mean, I love Jane Austen. I do. Every book I've read of hers, I have loved. So yeah. The number 4 spot for 2020 goes to The Color Purple by Alice Walker. Yes, it took me until 2020 to read this book. I don't know why it took me so long, but it is a mind-blowing book, and I'm really mad that my high school didn't have me read it. I think high schools everywhere should have people read The Color Purple. It's about several African-American women living in rural Georgia in the early 20th century. These 2 sisters, Celie and Nettie, were separated at a very young age, and now they're communicating through letters, or we are reading the letters that Celie is writing. And it just spans over years and years and years, and Celie like builds this whole world for herself, and it's so I loved it so much. Strong, wonderful women, and it's a little gay. It's pretty gay. It's very gay. It's wonderfully gay. We have reached the top 3. This is where it gets very exciting. In the top 3 place for 2020, I have Dress Codes for Small Towns by Courtney Stevens. This is one of those YA books that is powerful for any age, I think. It's about this girl, Billy, living in a small town. Her dad's a pastor, and she is very much a tomboy, and some people in the town don't like that. They want her to be more feminine. She's also questioning her sexuality. She's in love with like both of her best friends. One of them's a guy, one of them's a girl, and it's just so honest, I think. It's one of those books that just has like a beautiful friend group, like you want them to be your friend group so badly. I think that there are a lot of teenagers and a lot of young women that would find this book really comforting and important and helpful. So, highly recommend. And then in the number 2 spot for 2020, I have Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. This book wrecked me. This was like this is one of the last books I read before quarantine, like in early March. And I remember reading this like on the train and just like having tears in my eyes on the train. It's about this woman, Eleanor, it never actually says it in the book, but you gather that she's got something going on, probably autism, that just makes her not be able to read social signals, and the way that she views socializing and being around other people is very different from the way that I might view that. The way that she looks at the world is so interesting, and I just loved being in her head. I'm getting a little emotional talking about this, but this book, I really want to reread it. It's one of those books that I didn't want to finish. I just wanted to keep reading it forever. And yeah, I loved it. It broke my heart and sewed it back together again, and I highly recommend to anyone and everyone. And then the best book of 2020 goes to Homegoing by Yagasi. I cannot speak highly enough about this book. Listen to the premise. Just listen to the premise for a second. This starts with two sisters in Ghana who are separated at a very young age. One of them marries a white man and lives in a castle. The other one is sold into slavery and shipped over to America. They each only get one chapter each, and then it follows their children generationally on both sides, one in Ghana, one in the US, and it switches off between the two, and you never get a chapter with the same character twice. I cannot imagine a book more powerfully illustrating the horrible displacing effect that slavery had on families. It's completely mind-blowing, and you loved every character in this book. Like, I do not understand how she made me fall in love with so many characters in such a short amount of time. Like, it just seems impossible, but she did it. And yeah, you need to read this. If you take one thing away from this video, it's that this book needs to be on your TBR and you need to read it. Those are my top 10 books of 2020. I hope that something on this list appealed to you. These are all wonderful. You really can't go wrong. Let me know if you read any of these. I would love to know what you thought of them if you did. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, leave some comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Mwah.
Now I was headed to the bus stop,